Good morning, everybody. Welcome in. Let me just, all right, I've got the chat there. Okay, cool. All right, I will give you guys a couple of minutes for everybody to come in. You can let us know in the chat, where are you checking in from? What country, what state are you in? Melbourne, Brisbane, Auckland, New Zealand, US, South Carolina, Oklahoma. See, I'm going to know so many more of these states. It makes it so much more exciting to me when I've just been there and obviously see what you guys are from. Excuse me.
Just one person from the UK who's staying up this evening. So thank you for coming along.
Wow, a late one for you guys. Oh, there's two.
Oh, no. Yeah.
I love it. Panama. Wow. Alabama. I love it.
I just love the way that sounds, Alabama.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, welcome everybody. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you guys are from. All right, we've got over 100 people in now, so I think we will get started. So welcome to this Q&A where we are going to be trying to answer a lot of the most common questions that people have around studying homeopathy. What does that look like? What does RMDY Academy look like? You know, how do we do it? What's different? Why is everybody raving about it? So let's get started. First off, let's introduce ourselves. So Jean, do you want to introduce yourself first?
Hi, everyone. My name is Jean Duckworth. I've been a homeopath now since the mid-1990s, and long history. I used to run the BSc and MSc homeopathy at a university in the UK, and I've been in practice all along as well.
And for me, I'm sure a lot of you do know me, but if you don't, my name's Melissa. I've been a homeopath. I think I graduated nearly 10 years ago. Fell in love with homeopathy, extremely passionate. Think it is just something that everybody needs to know. But I'm also really into, helping homeopaths become the best homeopaths that they can be. I think in our profession, we've lacked a lot of that fire real touching our community. So that's what I really love. And Peter and Jean are these absolute whizzes with this, just like they know the ins and outs of every corner of homeopathy. You know, they've got over 60 years experience between the two of them. And whilst I don't have that, what I am really good at is taking really complex ideas or aspects of homeopathy, and I can speak them in a way that's quite simple. So I think that's what I hear the most from students is, I just understand the way that you explain it. Jean and Peter are also like very easy to understand too, but just that real simplification. I think that's really my talent. So Peter?
Good morning all, and good evening. Peter Berryman. I'm a homeopath. I've been practicing since 1985, so that's nearly 40 years of continual private practice. I've spent about 14 years at university, graduated from 5 universities and 6 different colleges. I love learning and I love sharing what I learn with my students and my patients. So I love communicating and engaging with this team. I think this is the best homeopathic program I've ever been involved with. I've been involved with homeopathic education since 1990. I've worked in the university sector as a senior lecturer in health sciences, teaching wonderful things like chemistry and biochemistry, anatomy, physiology, pathology, etc. So I can help out with the science side of things as well as the homeopathy side of things. So loving to be on the team.
I love it. Thank you. Okay, so we are heading towards a new era if we haven't already stepped into it, already. So we would say we're at the end of the pharmaceutical era. If you guys are like me, growing up in that generation, a lot of that stuff was considered normal, but we are seeing this mass awakening around the world where we're really finding the shortcomings of things like antibiotics, steroids. People are realizing we can't continue to drug our way into health. We're a pretty sick nation, sick, sad, uninspired. We're not really vibrant overall as a world population, we would say, and we really want to return there. So we would say homeopathy has the ability to focus on all acute and chronic health conditions. Now, our goal is to look after all of those things, all of the things that people perhaps go to GPs for and usually are given a pharmaceutical solution. We want to look after all of those things so that the allopathic model, our current hospitals are able to look after all of the emergency situations, which is what they are so good at. Your car crashes, your traumas, your surgeries, they will save your life in an emergency situation, but they are not very effective at dealing with things like eczema, asthma, endometriosis, and really preventative healthcare where homeopathy absolutely thrives. So really all health conditions, you can really look for what homeopathics are supportive in that. It is not very limited at all. People will message me and say, hey, I'm thinking about booking a homeopathic appointment. I'm just wondering, can homeopathy help with X, Y, Z? And the answer is just a unanimous yes, because with homeopathy, we light up their vital force, that self-healing mechanism. Their body does it. We just stimulate that healing powerfully, and we see fantastic results. So we really need to prepare, the world for this mass exodus from the allopathic model. In the last couple of years, I'm sure you guys like us have seen people are very distrustful, and they're really, truly looking for solutions. And homeopathy, is really coming to the forefront around the world. So our mission, bring homeopathy back to the people, that we can use this knowledge to heal ourselves and the world, and to provide the highest level of homeopathic education in a revolutionary way. This is the point of difference with RMDY Academy. We do it differently because we think we can do it better. Peter and Jean, having been involved in homeopathic education at the highest levels, Jean teaching the master's programs. Something that's kind of funny is that Jean actually taught Peter his master's, and Peter taught me in a bachelor's when I was in naturopathy. So we've sort of gone down the chain here, and we have other tutors in our academy. So there is 3 others, and they were also either taught by Jean, and they're absolutely fantastic. So yeah, that is our goal. We want people to graduate confident, competent, and really run a successful practice. In the natural health world, there is sort of this old, outdated way of practicing of, oh, they're really nice and constantly doing everything for other people, but not being successful, whether that's making money, having good boundaries, and just really thriving in practice. That is not going to be an issue with our graduates. We are really making sure people understand the power of the medicine that we do. We're making sure that you are equipped to actually heal people, so that by virtue of that, your practice just explodes. You will, before you know it, be referring to other people because you will be full. So that is our absolute goal. Now, quickly, as a career path, life-changing to be a homeopath. I mean, the 3 of us are biased, but nothing else on earth that I would rather do to this day. Life-changing, transform not only your career, but your entire perspective on health, healing, and human potential. A lot of our students, of course, when you're learning this, you can't help but upgrade and up-level your own life, get yourself super aligned, healthy, vibrant. So on a personal note, it's, what do you call it, Jean? It's personal development, this whole course. you can't learn about other remedies and not grow as a person. So you will graduate at the end of 2 years a completely different person to when you come in. There is high demand. A lot of people are seeking homeopaths, you know. Ask my sister who does our admin, the hundreds of emails that we receive, please refer me to a homeopath, and we are lacking the homeopaths to refer to. The flexibility. This is one of the things that I love about our career the most. I was a stay-at-home mum when I first started my practice. My husband would get home from work. I would go downstairs and I would do a couple of appointments. I would be earning, you know, part-time money. But more than that, I was just loving, you know, that connection with other people. Working that around, you know, a family is so valuable, because a lot of the people who are enrolling in this course, they don't want to put the kids necessarily into daycare or be going to a 9 to 5 outside of the house. So this is the ultimate flexibility. Now, when you are studying, the same goes. And as a homeopath, you design your practice the way that you want it. If you want to work 5 days a week, amazing. If you want to work 2 days a week, 2 massive days a week, you get to schedule it however you like. Financial success. A thriving homeopathy practice can become a sustainable and rewarding income source with limitless potential for growth and impact. I just want to highlight, I remember I was speaking to some Americans recently, and in the US, you guys have over 1 million medical doctors, you know, just your average family physicians who are dishing out, you know, sort of your typical pharmaceuticals, anxiety, depression, all chronic health issues. 1 million medical doctors. In regards to homeopaths, if we could get to the point where homeopaths, we just continue to rise and rise and rise and sharpen ourselves and get better and better and better. You know, can you imagine if we had thousands, tens of thousands of homeopaths? We would flip the state of health of this world on its head. But mind you, we would not need 1 million homeopaths, because we actually heal people at the root cause of the problem. They shouldn't be coming back to us, and we should not be as busy as these doctors, because we really get the job done between us. So let us look next. Jean, what type of personality makes a good homeopath?
Someone who loves people. I mean, it's as simple as that, you know. Yes, you do have to be organized. You have to love studying. You have to, you know, really connect and have empathy with people. But ultimately, you know, if you're motivated, because every time, you know, a patient comes in to see me, they teach me so much about myself, about remedies, about health, about other people. So I think, you know, for me, it's curiosity, probably.
Peter, anything else that you think makes a really good homeopath?
I think Jean hit it on the head with empathy. We need to have a genuine concern for our fellow men and women and children, and even animals. And look, homeopathy is even spreading into agriculture, in case you're inclined that way as well. Curiosity, education for life. We're never-ending learning. Jean and I, we're quite senior, but it never stops. We're always doing courses and reading books and going to seminars and webinars. We were recently in Los Angeles in a conference. We were in Bali last year at a conference. We're always studying, and we love it. So
I guess for anyone here also who's studying to be a homeopath, just so you know, even after 30 years of doing it, one of the highlights of being a homeopath is that we, with our community, there are conferences all around the world, and they are really fun. You know, you feel like a kid in a candy store. We were in this conference, me, Peter, and Jean were sitting, you know, in the front row on the first day, and we're like, yes, like, tell us, teach us, because it is so exciting. You know, we talk about, you know, the empathy and the connection, and that is amazing. The thrill of finding the remedy that heals somebody, boy, it is a rush. I got a text this morning from somebody who we'd been working with a little while ago, and she'd had chronic, severe eczema on her hands. Finally got the right remedy about 6 weeks ago. She's been taking it, and she's just, you know, sent through the message, and she's like, you know, for the first time I can fully clench my fist, no bleeding, no cracking, all of that. And she is so excited. And so it just, you unlock that key. And so it is a puzzle. I would say it's a good thing if you're curious about like the body and how it functions, you know, what healing actually looks like. And also human psychology, the metaphysical nature of this universe. If you're into those things as well, that's just a bonus point for how exciting homeopathy is, what this vibrational medicine can actually achieve in somebody's life. So that, you know, but we have people coming from all different paths into this course. We have men who are currently tradies and they are studying homeopathy at night because they want to open a practice and, you know, maybe work with men, take cases and prescribe medicines. So here it says, what could a career after the course look like? I mean, whatever you can imagine. If you want a private practice at home, you know, working full on, amazing. If you would like to do online containers or trainings, maybe you want to, I had this idea once that if I had the time, I would love to do like a Tupperware party, but instead I take my homeopathic kit and I go into these groups of people. What a social setting. And I just talk to them about homeopathy, how to use it with their kids, their families, their pets, and really just sort of encourage them and teach them like that. How rewarding would that be? You could choose a niche to focus on. Maybe, you know, for me, I loved fertility. That's how I started. Maybe you want to focus with complex kids, the autism, the pandas, ADHD, these sorts of things. Maybe you're really drawn to menopause and you're just fascinated, you want to specialize. It's completely up to you guys what you would like to do. There are also other options. You might go into homeopathic pharmacy, you know, dispensing medicines, stuff like that. You might want to get into research. I think all of homeopathy is really on the precipice of a complete explosion. Were you going to say something, Jean?
No, I'm just really thrilled if anybody wants to get into research afterwards, because I absolutely love research.
Yes, Jean is the absolute master whiz when it comes to research, articles, publishing things. Peter?
There's a homeopathic conference in Thessaloniki, Greece, happening this June, particularly around homeopathic research. It's put on by HRI, which is based in London, Rachel Roberts and her colleagues, Homeopathic Research Institute. So there's cutting edge issues there if you're into the forefront of medical science, homeopathic science.
And it's so fascinating that, you know, modern tech and the research is just confirming what homeopaths have said for 300 years, nearly, you know, 250 maybe. But we did not need to see it, you know, under a microscope or the changing of the water for us to know that what we do heals people. So it is brilliant to see that research coming through, though, as we are, you know, sharing homeopathy with the world. Nothing wrong with like research to support it. Now, the average income of a homeopath very much varies on how the person wants to practice. A lot of people do want to do this as like a side hustle to their family. So they might work part-time and maybe they make, you know, $50,000 a year. And that for them is exactly what they want. If somebody wanted to work, you know, full-time, just seeing back-to-back clients and they wanted to earn, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, you can absolutely do that. The price that people pay to see homeopaths, you know, some homeopaths I saw in the US recently, they'll charge $1,000, you know, sort of for their initial consults. And that's the level that they're, you know, at. It can be an extremely financially rewarding career. But what I would say is that no one really is drawn to homeopathy for the income. They're drawn to it because they want to contribute. They want to help build, you know, communities back up. But what we are really committed to in our course is teaching our students the value of what they do. Because, yeah, historically, people have not valued natural medicine as much. And it makes no sense that we have surgeons, you know, in the hospital, or that we have even doctors earning up here whilst homeopaths are here, if we truly believe that what we are doing is far superior. So in regards to healing people. So it's really just however you want to do it, whether you want to sell products, the sky is the limit for that. So we'll just Leave that. Is this a job for the future? Well, 100% yes.
Mel, we just have a question, and it's about harm. So someone has asked, Tammy has asked, whether, you know, in the way that given the wrong herbal formula can cause harm, can homeopathy cause harm if given the wrong remedy? Yeah, Peter, do you want to answer that quickly?
Well, the short answer is no, because if you give an underwhelming potency, it just bounces off. We have to give both a similar remedy at an optimum potency. And when you do that, the patient takes up this prompt. It's like a catalyst, and it facilitates self-healing. They heal themselves. The medicines just give it a kickstart. And yes, it may be cathartic. There may be consequences. There may be tears. There may be discharges. But in the context of why and where this is coming from, because if you track where a client has come from, to get better, they may have to go backwards through it and resolve some old baggage that they carry around. So it may not be absolutely easy peasy, but it's constructive if it is uncomfortable because they understand where they've come from. So I wouldn't call that harm. I would call that constructive.
And that's when you're given the right remedy and it resonates with you. But say, if you were in practice, say, for example, when we were working with the woman with eczema and we'd given these other remedies, it was her 7th remedy that created this rapid healing response. But in those first 6 prescriptions, no harm was done whatsoever. No. It just didn't have the desired effect. So you sort of have to keep looking. So, all right, let's keep going, guys, because some of the questions coming through we are going to answer. So at the end, we'll check through. But Jean, just jump in if you see any that are... Okay, so highly skilled and experienced team. We're passionate. We're damn passionate. That's one thing, you know, our students find very infectious. And it's funny when even external people like the pharmacies talk to me, they say, damn, yeah, your cohort is very passionate. They are so excited. And I say, brilliant. That's the way it should be. You don't want to be bored getting through your studies. You want to be chomping at the bit, so excited to be out in the world healing. So community and connection. This is one of the biggest aspects of Remedy that we love and that we foster. Community and connection, like-minded communities. The students, the feedback that we have gotten from them is that they have been searching their whole lives for this sort of space, this sort of container. The students talk to each other. I'm sure so many of them are now best friends. They go to each other's houses, they study together. I saw in the chat before, a few of you realized already how close you live to each other, and people go, no way. This photo in the middle there, that's actually from Texas, where we were about a month ago. And we were just meeting up with some of our Texas students. And 2 of them at that meetup realized they live on the same street, other ends of the same street. And, you know, just to have nearby friends, if you ever need a remedy that you don't have in your dispensary, if you ever want to talk about a case, the person, okay, when you start studying to be a homeopath, oftentimes it becomes like all consuming in your mind. It's very exciting because you just can't believe that this sort of power in medicine exists. So yes, it's quite addictive. And so people talk about it, but you can drive your family slightly mad in doing so. And so if you have a community in Remedy, you know, they have their own WhatsApp groups and they just light up. They are constantly talking about things that they've figured out, cases they're working on, and they are helping each other. Jean, tell us about your experience with having a community in homeopathy. And you've obviously seen what happens when people don't. So, and I know with my course, I studied homeopathy, my first 2-year course at Endeavour College. And when we graduated, not only was there no cohesiveness after, but only 2 of us out of maybe 20 went on to even practice homeopathy. And now what that tells you is it was really lacking something. If you've done a 2-year degree, and back then I think it was like $30,000, but you just don't even use it, that's a bit concerning. So Jean, I'd love to just hear your experience.
Yes, well, I've been the first thing is, when we set up the BSc and MSc homeopathy, I set it up along with people that I trained with, and I'm still friends with those same people, and I see them every week still. So community is important. And I think one of the things is Mel and Peter have been surprised that they'll talk about people in the homeopathy community. And I'll say, oh, they were my student. Oh, yes, I know them. I know them. And the thing with homeopaths is that we argue amongst ourselves like any profession, but ultimately we are friends. It's this huge global community that supports each other, that wants everybody to succeed. And this course is based on what I would call relational principles. So even though it's an online course, one of the most important things for us is to create community and friendships amongst just you, the group. And to do that, even though there might be a large group overall, we split you into smaller group tutorials. There's so many opportunities for you to connect. Even here, you can see immediately people are already exchanging phone numbers. They're saying, oh, we're in the same town, we're in the same area. And those friendships become very real and very close very quickly. So, if you join a course like this, you are never alone, even if it's an online course.
And that's something that we have worked, the students, they take care of themselves. They're so loving. And actually, their reaction to the next cohort coming through, when we ask them about mentoring support for new students coming through, they are so excited and just so loving and nurturing. It's really that realizing that together we are going to change, health and homeopathy around the world. You can't do it alone. You really do need a big group. So really, really beautiful. Now, an engaging learning environment. Our teaching style is dynamic, it's interactive, and designed to spark curiosity. So you feel supported, inspired, and never alone in the journey. Peter, can you tell us about the old school ways of teaching homeopathy, more that didactic model versus what we do?
I've been involved in homeopathic education since 1990. So back in those days, we would invent our own curriculum. It was not scrutinized by admin. So we taught what we liked, which was good or bad. We would stand in front of the students and they would take dictation. They would write down what we said. Those were the days before electronic devices and photocopy machines and all sorts of things. So things have changed with technology supporting all of this. And yes, the term is didactic education. Someone stands at the front and speaks to the group, to the audience, to the students, and they keep quiet and listen, and then you have Q&A, and then they leave and come back the next week and do it again and again and again. Whereas what we're doing now has so much more engagement, so much more facilitation. We offer opportunity for extra reading for extension students. We help students who are lagging and are compromised by issues and health issues and family issues. So we support students up the front and students at the back all the way along so that there's opportunity for everyone to be the best they possibly can nowadays.
Something that I love is the way we do all of our lectures together. Every single one, we are chatting back and forward while we teach. And so you can hear the perspective, on a remedy. And let's pretend we're doing a lecture on the homeopathic remedy silica. And so you hear all about silica, and maybe, Peter's reading and, we're teaching. We've got all of our information laid out on our beautiful slides. But then we go into our case experiences, and I might talk about all the people that I've seen that when I prescribed silica had profound healing. And I'll explain, okay, this person, it was eczema. This person, it was chronic constipation. This person, their hair, skin, and nails was all, really subpar, et cetera, et cetera. So you really hear these different perspectives by having the three of us there. And I think that engaging element of not being bored by a lecturer at the front sitting there and being like, okay, all right, listening, what am I learning? I think the conversational aspect really helps students. From the feedback that we've gotten, they absolutely love that.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, Mel, of, you know, on a Monday morning, we get these huge, on Instagram, you see everybody, they're all diving in excited for this week's lessons. And they wait until Monday morning when they're released. And then it's, you know, they're all seeing what's there this week for them. And, you know, they're all posting and saying how excited they are for it. It's wonderful to see.
Yeah, for sure. And it's so funny because a lot of people have said to me, you know, I used to, on Sunday nights, I would have like the back to work blues. You know, you've had your weekend, you've had heaps of fun, and then, oh, damn, it's Monday tomorrow. And they said, I never thought that like it would be my most exciting. You know, I can't wait to go to bed on a Sunday night. I know it sounds crazy, guys, but trust me, when it gets a hold of you, that's honestly what it feels like. Okay, so the remedy experience, each week you will have multiple sessions to view. For example, so the lectures will record a video presentation on theory. So let's say you're starting off trimester 1. In week 1, you get released a video with all of your slides and us presenting, and we are talking about all about the history of homeopathy, the roots, the foundations. How did we get here? How was it discovered? So you might have a really foundational lesson on theory. Then you also get to witness, almost from the very start, Peter, Jean, and I taking cases together of members of the public, because we want you to witness what it actually means to be a homeopath. What are we actually doing in those consults? We don't want you to wait until the second year before you start being exposed to those interactions, because you learn so much passively watching about the nature of the questions that we ask. And then you hear our discussion about, okay, so Bob has really bad IBS. And we're talking about Bob, we're talking about Bob's traumas, and then we're talking about the remedies that are best suited for IBS in Bob's case. So you're just learning. And this is where we sort of refer to it as a spiral curriculum. You're constantly dipping back and deepening your knowledge on all of these different aspects. So at the completion of case taking, the practitioner will go through the process of case analysis. What does it mean to analyze a case? How do we do this with our books and with our online software? So you witness us doing it. You got to find what needs to be treated. You need to repertorize. You need to pick between the different remedies. And ultimately, you need to find the remedy that you would like to give first. Excuse me. So we are recording and teaching every step of the way. So we want you to learn your case-taking skills. What does it mean to, you know, ask empathetically, you know, these sorts of very touchy, delicate things. The truth is, when you get into homeopathic practice and you start taking cases, you are going to realize, my gosh, some people have had a very hard life. In fact, a lot of people have had a very hard life. And it can be really upsetting. And I saw a comment in the chat before, and it said, I've been wondering how I would go as someone who is like a real empath. I wondered how I would go hearing people's stories. And the truth is, at the start, it can be quite a lot. And we teach in this course about, you know, where to go if you need that extra support, you know, from an external person, if you've heard something really gnarly. I know when I first started practicing, you know, the first time somebody started talking about like really deep sort of abuse as a child, I remember just feeling so shocked inside. I was so rattled, and I was, you know, I was just sad. I continued to take the case, but at this point it was on the phone, so they couldn't see my face being upset about what I was hearing. But then, you know, my husband is in our current cohort, and he is loving it, and he's going through. And he was witnessing me take a case of this beautiful woman, but who had had a very hard life. And she was crying almost throughout the whole consult. And I was taking my notes and asking questions and pausing. And after my husband had watched that case, he said to me, oh my gosh, how were you not in tears? He's like, I could not, like, he's like, I was choking up listening. He's like, I could not have taken that case. And he said, are you just like heartless? You just didn't even look like it affected you. And the truth is like, after these years in practice, you still come to it with this absolute warmth, this absolute positive regard for this person in front of you. Of course, you absolutely care. But for me, it's like, I also know that help is on the way. You're in the consult now. I'm going to give you a remedy. Things are going to go up and up from here. And so I guess I come to it with this real positive light of like, I'm sorry you've been through so much, but we're going to transmute it out. The power of this medicine, we are going to let go of so much. And so if you are an empath, lots of our students, they were crying watching, some of us, you really do get used to it. And it's okay, you're a human being. We don't expect you to be a robot and not have feelings about what you're seeing, but you will be able to conduct yourself professionally, bond and build rapport with your patients, like true good friendships. A lot of us, as practitioners, we have really close bonds with our patients, but we're still very professional and we can get the job done. Okay. The time commitment and flexibility. Jean, did you want to take this one?
Yes, it's very flexible. The only fixed sessions are a number of tutorials that we have over the year. And there are, this year, there are 11 groups that we have. So they run at all different time zones, all different times in Australia, America, the UK. So you can always find one that fits you, and you stay with that throughout the course. But other than that, you choose where and when you study. I get so jealous when people are studying in beautiful coffee shops. They're studying, by the beach or in a beautiful garden. And I think, oh, wow, I wish I could be there. But, they're listening to it in the car. And Mel's got a story about her husband now.
Yeah.
I think about your car journeys.
Yeah, so he loves to listen to it in the car, which, yes, to me, it's a bit of a dampener because I spend my life recording, reading, or listening to my own voice. But the flexibility of it, like Jean said, it's just untapped. Now, a lot of people are parents, and they have children or they have busy lives around work. We had to roll out this curriculum in a way where we can give you the ultimate flexibility, but still have those live touch points, because we want you to come in and actually see us and have that, back and forward with the tutors. So, it's really, you get to do it at your own pace, but we do ask you not to fall behind. We know that sometimes life happens, and we've said to our students, excuse me, if you fall behind, a couple of weeks, it's not an issue. You might have a holiday coming up, or you might know that you have more time coming up where you plan to get through your lectures. That's not an issue. So yeah, they find that really good. And if anybody ever is actually, falling behind, and they reach out to us and we come up with a plan. But yeah, we often have in our tutorials, we've got lots of mums, their bubs are on their lap, they're talking. We do not want a program where people need to separate and remove themselves from their family. We want it to be able to be weaved in. So if your kids are sitting next to you, laughing, talking, most of the students are muted until they want to talk. But even when the students unmute, if we hear kids running around in the background, we love it, as part of our course. So that's the nature of how our students are currently juggling it.
And I think, Mel, what we haven't said so far is, there's a whole load of things that you watch each, the tutorials, or not the tutorials, but the lessons that you watch. But there's also 4 hours a week that Mel and I and Peter have set aside. And there's 2 hours in one time zone, 2 hours in another time zone. And you just come along to those and you can ask anything you want. They're unstructured, and we're there as your resource to talk about anything you want about homeopathy. So there's always a touch point every week that you come and connect with us.
Yeah, which we love. Someone's just asked, is it realistic to do the course and work full time? 2 people have actually asked that question at exactly the same time. One sent it just to hosts and panelists. And yes, lots of people are doing it currently. We have a lot of full-time nurses who are working in the hospital and doing all of this stuff. At night, they're coming home and they're just, listening to their course materials or on the weekend. And yes, you absolutely can do it full-time. Not to say that it's not a lot, but it's worth it for the life that you want to create, if that's what you want. I had 3 baby boys, age 3 and under, when I was completing my honours degree, that honours year. And boy, there were times when that was really rough. You know, I was getting up at 3 a.m. to finish an assignment and submit something. But what I have created with my life from that, it was absolutely worth it. I think, and it was fascinating. You know, when you're learning homeopathy, it makes it a lot easier because you're not dragging yourself through it. You're excited to do it. Assignments, not so much, but let's talk more. We'll get to the point where RMDY Academy does not have those formal written assignments in the old school way, which I think takes a lot of pressure off people who are joining us. Jean, did you want to say something?
No, I think we're going to come on to it anyway.
Sure. Okay, so the time commitment and flexibility. Lectures are released on Monday mornings on our online learning platform. So students can get into that. Then we have our 2 live drop-in sessions each week with tutors, where students can ask, seek guidance, deepen their understandings. People have a lot of fun in those because, you know, it's really quite conversational. You also have your structured tutorials. So that's where you are allocated a tutorial group of your choosing. So you do get to choose the time. So if you're in America and you say, the best time for me is, you know, 10 a.m. on such and such a day, you're going to find the best slot that suits you. If you prefer a really late night because you've got kids and you want them to go to bed, and then you're going to jump into your 2-hour tutorial, brilliant. So that is a 2-hour session that we ask you to keep aside just once a month, and there's only 3 per tutorial trimester. So when we do the math on that, we have 6 trimesters of this. So it's a 2-year course broken up into 6 trimesters, 3 trimesters per year, and you have only 3 tutorials per trimester. So 3 6s are 18. So throughout this whole 2-year course, we only ask you to make yourself available, excuse me, for 18 slots of a 2-hour tutorial. So over the 2 years, it's really not much, and you keep it that consistent time. So it's not changing. So if you've got a work routine going on, you know, you can keep that just set away. Brilliant. That's that one. So is it manageable for someone with a newborn or a stay-at-home mum with kids? Yes, we have lots of mums giving birth even during our course, and they reach out to us and they might say, hey guys, I'm going to miss this tutorial. We had someone coming to the meetup the other day. It was in Orlando, and she messaged us that morning. She said, oh my gosh, I was so excited to come meet you, but I've actually just given birth. So she was actually bringing some bags for us. And she said, I'm so sorry, my dad's going to run the bags in, but she's literally just given birth. But that's how much she wanted to come. Yes, you can absolutely be living your life amongst this. Is it self-paced? We've explained that to you guys. You can fall back a bit, but largely, you know, you just get your release every week and you try to keep on top of that as close as possible. Is there a way to fast track the course quicker than the 2 years? No. And Jean said something once at the beginning of when we were designing the whole course, and it was that even though some people get in their heads that, no, I just want to do it full time and I want to do it, you know, in the space of a year. The truth is that knowledge and wisdom takes time to integrate for people. And 2 years is really the minimum amount of time that you would want to allow that to happen. Once you guys graduate, you are, of course, going to be integrating more and more. It literally never stops. Really, when you start practicing, in my opinion, that's where you learn like deeply, you know, for yourself, like different things about remedies. But 2 years, we do not want anyone rushing it any quicker than that. Let the information flow, sink in, and learn really deeply. Okay. Assessments. Jean, do you want to go through the assessments?
Yes. So one of the things early on, we decided that we didn't want to push people through lots of meaningless assessments. So we don't want you to write acres and, you know, of text on materia medica or do essays, because they don't apply to real life. So what we decided was we were going to assess by portfolio, and that means that you'll watch the clinical cases. So you'll do, you know, you'll look at the cases that we provide, you'll do any observation hours, and you will complete 10 cases plus 2 follow-ups for each case with an external tutor, and those will form, and then you'll put the paperwork into us. You might write a portfolio, you might include things that you've learned, your reflections. So what we're assessing is your competence and readiness to be a homeopath, because that's the important thing. It's about, about you going out there and being ready to practice. And that's what those cases do. They are an apprenticeship style. So you are learning on the job. So by the time that you go into practice, you're already flying. So there's none of this that you get in other courses which, all right, I've passed. Now what do I do? You'll learn, you'll continue to learn, but you are ready to practice.
And so, guys, I'm sure you understand the nature of what we're saying with some of these old school assessing techniques, even, the way that we treat kids in school, where it's like, okay, memorize this and then regurgitate it for me on an exam. And I can tell you honestly that I was really, really good at that at school. I've got a very, very good memory. So I could read a book just before I go in for whatever exam, and I could just regurgitate it all out. It was just right there in my mind. Within a year, I don't remember anything that I just, and so it's absolutely pointless. And here you have people graduating from high school with these like flying colors and like, okay, what are you going to do? It doesn't really mean anything if it is not integrated. And so we do not want you writing a 10,000 word essay on XYZ if it is not going to make you a better homeopath. All we want is for you to know how to be a good homeopath. And that's why when you graduate, you're only qualifying, what you actually get certified with is the portfolio that you submit to us, where you show us that you have taken 10 cases of people. So you'll have 10 different people and you are going to do an initial consult. You're going to write down all your notes, and then you're going to prescribe a remedy, and we are going to watch you do the initial and then 2 follow-ups for each of those 10 people. We look at that and we can see, okay, they are picking remedies in the ballpark. They have got a solid understanding of how to practice as a homeopath. You are not going to do it perfectly in those, 10 cases. You are going to be showing off your skills and your growth and development. We expect that the first case that you take and all of your case notes are going to be way less comprehensive than that at the 10th case that you take, probably at the very end of this 2 years. So, just let that knowledge flow. Our current cohort, they are just starting their cases right now. And yeah, it's just the process you go through. And then at the end of that 2 years, you submit to us only that portfolio and you graduate as an advanced practitioner of homeopathy. We'll get more to the accreditation and the certification, what it means to be qualified, but just so that you understand the nature of the assessments. Every week as well, I will add, you have a weekly little quiz. So let's say we're in week 1 and Peter, Jean and I are telling you about the history of homeopathy. You have a multiple choice quiz at the end of that week, and it might say, okay, if you've listened to the course content, you're going to know these answers, but who was the founder of homeopathic medicine? And you see the 4 options there and you go, yep, Samuel Hahnemann. Okay, tick, I know that one. Now, what happens if you get one of those answers wrong? You literally just resit that quiz again until you get the 10 out of 10 right, and then it unlocks week 2. All right, on to week 2 study. So they're not made to be difficult and mess you up, but it's confirming that, yes, you have listened to the course content, you've integrated it, and you know it. So I just want to touch again on what Jean said about the external tutors. It's part of a lot of case programs, homeopathic programs around the world, that you do all of your studies, but in having somebody actually look over those cases in your portfolio, we want you to approach a remedy, certified remedy, known, approved rather, just so that we know that the homeopath that you're working with is brilliant. And that way, then when your portfolio is signed off by them, we know that you are fully ready to get out in the world and start practicing. So there will be a range of different homeopaths there on that list. Lots of people are already trying to apply with us to be there to mentor you through these cases. You can choose who it is. You can look at their websites, get a feel for the person. You could use different mentors, you know, you could do a couple with someone if you want to learn their unique perspective and approach. You could then, you know, do a couple of cases with someone else. As long as they are signed off, brilliant. And in regards to the pricing, that is separate to the RMDY Academy, and there is a list. So I believe, you know, some people will do it for as little as $500. Some people it's more expensive. Probably depends. Their sliding scale is going to depend on how much experience they have, how intense their mentoring is. You know, it's all of those factors. They will decide how much, but you arrange that with them privately before starting any of it. So there is that. I think that's all I was thinking of on that. Okay. Now, associations and accreditation, a question we get asked a lot. So who are these associations, such as the AHA, the ATMS, ANTA, IICT? Why do these associations exist, and do we need to be a part of them? Now, Peter was the president of the ATMS. Peter, were you were involved with the AHA? Because I remember going to one of those meetings with you as a student. So you have long been doing the rounds of associations, and you're currently with the ATMS. But tell us about associations.
Associations have a role of picking up graduates after their studies and carrying them through their professional life for things like continuing professional education, so you don't get rusty. They have a requirement that you do perhaps say 20 hours of continuing professional education in a financial year, that you maintain your professional indemnity and public liability insurance, and you maintain your senior first aid certificate, as well as pay your annual fee. But their role is to support the graduate after graduation, helping them with their business skills, all sorts of things to give them a sense of community. There are some modalities, not homeopathy, that are statutory registered. That's a different story than being a member of a professional association. AHA stands for Australian Homeopathic Association. ATMS stands for the Australian Traditional Medicine Society. ANTA stands for the Australian Natural Therapies Association. I can't pronounce IICT, but these are all associations, at least in Australia. IICT is international, for supporting graduates.
Love it. Okay, so do homeopaths need to be a part of associations in order to practice? Now, truthfully, I have no interest in being with any associations. You do not need it to be a very successful homeopathic practitioner. I think when you first graduate, though, sometimes it feels good. You know, and I remember I felt this way as a student. I was a student member of the AHA, and I felt good about belonging to a homeopathic body, you know, because I was more nervous then. And I'm like, you know, wanting to really know and I guess be connected probably with the group, because where I studied, you know, we didn't have the level of connection with RMDY that we have. So you do not need to be a member of any of these associations. You can just get, you know, your own private insurance. It's about $150 a year. And that is all that you need when you graduate to go out and become a very successful homeopathic practitioner. So Arrow is another one, you know, that we forgot to put on that list. They are a register. So we currently are accredited with, let's just check, it's on the next page. But we are accredited with the ATMS, which is probably one of the harder ones to get accreditation with, and IICT. And we are currently working with a few other associations. We're sort of just picking them off and working with them as we go through. So to be honest, by the time you guys are signing up, you're likely to have quite a list of people who want to accredit you if you want to join their association. But there is no need to do that unless you want to. It can be really fun because they can show you like seminars. Let's say the AHA, they might do a seminar on, you know, homeopathic, let's say homeopathic fertility. And they'll say, you know, it's $200 for this seminar. And it's that continuing professional development to keep you in there. Now, you will also, any graduate of Remedy is naturally a part of like our own Remedy association. So we have, you know, a professional portal going on after where you can sort of keep your finger on the pulse of new things being released if you want to just sort of stick with us. But, you know, some people are members of a bunch of different things. So, Peter, you've always have a lot of letters after your name. Any letter that you write, you know, it's got 6 million letters behind of all your associations. Jean, you've recently Jean used to work in the associations, but recently you rejoined one. How do you feel about associations, Jean?
I think I've gone through various phases in my career. You know, I've been the professional conduct director of an association. You know, I've belonged to, maybe I still belong to HINT, and I belong, which is the UK one, which is an international organisation, and I belong to the Society of Homeopaths in the UK. I think they can be useful, but they're not necessary.
Yep. Okay, brilliant. And so Jean is our person who obviously is looking at all of the curriculum. She's got her multiple computers out, all of the spreadsheets, mapping curriculum, and working with these associations. So IICT and IICT is internationally recognized, and the ATMS is moving towards international recognition, and so are a number of the other ones that we're currently working with. So in regards to the Americans, you know, absolutely fine. Canadians, there are going to be different options for you if you would like to join them. What happens if I live in one of the few areas where homeopathy is regulated? Now, it is important that every single person before signing up to study does a little bit of an investigation on where they live. So say in Australia, there is no regulations, there is no registrations in regards to homeopathy. The UK is the same. Yep. And in the US, there are 3 states where they are currently have other regulating rules, and that is Arizona, Nevada, and Connecticut. I've got that right. So if you're in those 3, you'll have to get creative and look at what do the homeopaths in your areas do. Because say, for example, in some of those, they've got a rule where you actually, you know, you have to be a medical doctor, for example, if you want to be a homeopath as well. So they've put this other block in place that, you know, but there are ways around it as well, where, you know, perhaps you're not practicing as a homeopath, but you are in fact a health coach and you are taking the case, and maybe you can see that a remedy would be really helpful, but maybe you're not prescribing that for them, but they might find themselves at a pharmacy buying that remedy that you think after your health coach appointment would be appropriate. Things like this, you're going to have to get creative and look around there. In regards to registration, there are conflicting views around the world on whether that would be a positive thing or a negative. In Australia, for example, in the last couple of years where we saw COVID mandates, COVID lockdowns, etc., the registered natural health modalities, for example, acupuncture, if you did not get a vaccine, you could not practice. And so that was because they are registered, and the government can then interfere a little bit more. My personal preference is to keep it away from the government and do our good work. But that is, you know, all homeopaths have different opinions. Some people want registration, they want maybe recognition for the great work that we do. But I just personally don't. The government tends to not be friendly towards homeopathy because pharmaceutical companies have a lot of sway in government, you know, elections and decisions. And so homeopathy is the biggest threat to their bottom line, to be honest with you. So Yeah, in regards to registration, in Australia, you're completely free. America, you are largely completely free as well, par those 3 states. Jean?
Yes, and in the UK, we tried very hard to get registration, and in the end, the government decided that only osteopathy and chiropractic were going to be fully registered, because and acupuncture are, because the others, herbal medicine and homeopathy, were deemed to be such low risk that they didn't want to go down that route, and they left us alone, which I think ultimately is a good thing. But we're not. Homeopathy is not in the radar of many countries because it is such low risk. There are very few prosecutions or actions taken against homeopaths for the work that they do.
Yep. And Canada is the same as Australia. You guys are, you are not regulated, you are not registered. So yeah, what you get from this course is qualified, certified, and it's an accredited course. But homeopathy as a profession is not registered. So that's the difference when you're asking.
So yeah, Martina mentioned in Europe. Now Europe, again, it's a bit like the States. Different countries have different regulations. So if you're in France, you have to be a medical doctor. If you're in Belgium, you have to be a medical doctor. In Germany, you can have homeopaths, but they tend to go and do an additional qualification or examination, which is called Heilpraktiker. And they do that to become familiar with all the medical sciences and other skills that the government thinks are necessary for homeopaths. So, it's not possible for us to go into absolutely every country and tell you what those regulations are. So if you're in Europe, you can contact the European Council of Classical Homeopathy. If you're in America, you can contact NASH or one of the organizations, and they will go through with you where you want to practice and what the regulations might be.
Brilliant.
Or just talk to a local homeopath in your area.
Yeah. And with the, the climate of natural medicine, and I guess even with everything happening in the United States at the moment, quite a movement, I guess it looks like trying to be more holistic in their health approach. Things could change, so you keep an eye on it just to see, but I think it's going to be very favorable for the future of homeopathy. So these are just the places we're accredited with currently. You can get professional membership. However, it is not required by any stretch for you to be a part of any associations. And yeah, you guys will be with the Remedy Collective Association. We fund homeopathic podcasts, the Woodford Folk Festival, for the free homeopathic clinic. So that's something. Peter, do you want to tell them really quickly about Woodford and what we do there?
For the last 16 seasons, I've volunteered in my summer holiday to go and work and volunteer in this free homeopathic clinic. It's Australia's best music festival. It's 6 days and 6 nights of everything you would want of peace, love, and cupcakes. So it's a little slice of heaven. It's very family friendly. We have a free homeopathic clinic. We typically see over 300 patients in the 6 days, and we give them the medicines for free. We welcome a donation, and we do extraordinary work with anyone who walks in our door.
Jean?
Yes, and I'm just started working with a charity in Gambia doing online homeopathy for local people. And as part of that, I am going to put together a request for some students to join me. So students can sit in with me and they can start taking the cases of Gambians, local Gambians. So that's another opportunity that we've started doing.
I love that. And there are so many, guys. We have donated to homeopathy in Africa to support the work that the Shares are doing over there, Jeremy and Camilla. You know, for every 10,000 we donate, they can train up, I believe, one local homeopath to try and keep them looking after their own communities. They're really aiming to try and keep it sustainable. So not just bringing in all the homeopaths to heal, let's train up the local people, and they can look after, themselves and their people.
Yeah, and just as an aside, you know, this Gambian project, we've only been in there for a month, and there's been a scabies outbreak within the local community, in the local village. And as part of that, the local public health went into that village and they started talking to everybody about how they were doing, you know, what treatments they were having. And they noticed that there was a pattern and that the people that were getting better had all been to the clinic.
Oh, wow.
And what they've done already after a month being there, they've asked if they can situate one of their public health people within the clinic so that they can learn about what we're doing.
And that is the goal. That is the goal always. Share our skills. There is so much to go around. Homeopathy is not expensive medicine. It should be accessible for everybody. Yeah, I love it. I love it, Jean. Peter?
Yes, even we've supported an outreach to the Solomon Islands in the Pacific Ocean, where homeopathy's been there for, I don't know, 100 years. It started out with the missionaries who went there, and the local indigenous people picked it up and they call it water medicine, and it works brilliantly. And we recently sponsored a group of homeopaths to go there to help train some locals, upskilling them to restock their dispensaries as well. Excellent work.
So guys, really, if you want to go and be involved in any of these initiatives, it's so exciting, and to be immersed in it. So after I had graduated my 2-year diploma of homeopathy, I did not feel confident to practice. It wasn't until I went to Woodford and I sat with Peter and we took cases together, and I just watched, you know, what he did. He asked me what I thought, and it's like, okay, yep, coming back. Yep, I got this. I can do this. And that is what actually gave me the confidence to practice. If I did not have that hands-on experience, I would never have stepped into practice, and I would never have gotten where I am now, where I love taking cases. That hands-on experience is so critical, and it's something that Remedy cares about so much. And that is why we are even opening our own homeopathic healing centers. Yes, of course, we do want to just open them for our communities, but more than that, we want our students to be able to work in these centers, even if it was for a week. What you learn in a week in dispensing the medicine, sitting with us in a conference room where we discuss cases, believe me, it's just going to be somewhere that you want to be. So our first healing center is under construction in Brisbane at the moment, but the time will come where we will be popping up all around the world, you know, so that not everyone has to fly to Australia, you know, to be with us. We would love you to support your own communities, you know, and train more locally. So we definitely have that in the works in time coming. So, Peter?
Well, there's also the obvious implication, since particularly telehealth and online consulting since COVID times, is you could be anywhere in the world, a digital nomad, sitting on the beach consulting with clients in South Africa, Prince Alfred Island, anywhere in the world. I've got clients all around the world, and I post medicines nearly all around the world where I can. And apart from the time zone issues, you can have an international practice.
You know, when I first started practicing infertility, I remember the first booking that I got, and a lot of my work came through Instagram, and it was a very small Instagram account at that time, maybe just a couple of hundred followers. But back then, you know, you do your hashtags, and a couple from the Middle East, from Dubai, had seen the post and had booked in. And I just thought to myself, I can't believe I'm working with people in the Middle East, giving them a fertility protocol for homeopathy. And then they had such success, they recommended all their cousins, their parents, their siblings. And, you know, that's there. And then you work in Bosnia, Lebanon, anywhere. You know, of course, the US is a big one that we work with in Australia. But for you guys, I just want you to know, by working online, you know, it is unlimited with who you can work with. So it's very, very helpful, because our medicines are very easy to ship. I would send a little kit of remedies for them, for their fertility protocols. And, you know, they would get through fine. People would take them. We do our follow-ups. Our medicines, because they're sort of so small, I'm not sending big, bulky boxes of supplements, just little remedies, and the magic happens. So, all right. Registration and health funds. Will I be able to open a clinic upon completion? Absolutely, yes. Will homeopathy ever be registered? That we do not know, you know, what the future holds. Now, the general problem with homeopathy that the government finds, I think, is that they've spent so long saying it's just a placebo, it does nothing, that now it would be very awkward for them to turn around and say, do you know what? That medicine is really powerful and it's dangerous, and that's why you need to be registered, because they can't register something if they believe it's nothing. So I think we are going to be fine, you know, for quite some time. And I just plan to continue as is, doing our good work. We think that the whole world is changing, you know, communities are changing. And the question here somebody submitted was, do you think Australian healthcare will look into homeopathy more in the next 5 to 10 years? And the reality is that what the Australian, you know, government does, what any government around the world does, it doesn't actually matter, because the people are driving the interest. People are talking to people. When you heal one child's eczema and that mum goes to school or goes to the playgroup and sees the other, you know, how many kids have eczema these days? It's got to be something like 20% of kids. Then they talk and they say, well, I went to see this person. And then you have all of these bookings for people with eczema. People talk. People are driving the reinstatement of homeopathy. We do not need to wait for the government. We don't need to wait for anybody else. So yes, in the next 5 to 10 years, you're going to see an explosion of interest. And it really is already happening. I say to our students, you are so lucky to be studying homeopathy in this age, this era. It was very different when Jean and Peter graduated 30 years ago. There was nowhere near the interest and the seeking of homeopaths. Now, homeopaths are booking out, which is something, you know, they've probably waited for a very long time. So it's a brilliant time to be alive, and it's a brilliant time to study homeopathy. Will homeopathy ever be put back onto private health funds for client rebates? Peter?
Well, up until April 2019, it did in Australia. And then 16 modalities got dropped off, including homeopathy. They've taken up until this year to reevaluate all of those. 7 of the 16 that got dropped off were put back, but not homeopathy. So it's that difficult dilemma. The scientists have already taken a position. It's not supporting homeopathy. We are a low-risk industry, so we don't harm very many people, hardly any. There have been about 4 adverse drug reactions in 20 years. That's very low risk. So we don't attract negative attention. So we are left alone. We don't really need the government to protect the Australian public, because we're not dangerous. We are highly effective, but we're not dangerous.
Love it. So again, another watch and wait for the health rebates. But I have found I was never on the private health, because when I was practicing, they'd already removed them. But it has never been an issue. I've actually never even, maybe one patient in all these years who's ever asked me, hey, can I get like a private health rebate? People invest in homeopathic treatment because it works. And yeah, it's just not an issue. People are not going to not come and see you because you're not on a register for the private health. Right, books, software, and supplies. What books do you recommend we could start reading? So a lot of questions that we get in the chat is, all right, I'm so keen, and what can I start doing now to prepare myself? So if you guys haven't seen the Introducing Homeopathy documentary, for one, that would be worthwhile watch, just to see, I guess, the sort of global impact of homeopathy and what it can do. Books. The number one book I would start with is The Impossible Cure by Amy Lansky, PhD. She was a NASA researcher. Her son was diagnosed with autism. She went on a big homeopathic journey and he was completely healed. So you read through that, but she does a brilliant job of incorporating a lot of the foundational aspects of homeopathy, the theory. You'll have a good understanding when you finish that about how homeopathy actually works. So it's not just the testimony, though she keeps it, really engaging. So that's a brilliant one. But other than that, any text that you can get your hands on that you find interesting, soak it up. All it's going to do is going to prepare you more and more for practice. It never ends. I've got this most beautiful bookshelf in my room. I just ordered 2 new books, like the Murphy's Repertoire, and they're literally this big. You'll never get over it. So just start now, and don't even ask Jean how many books she's got. Don't ask her. Don't ask her husband. I've heard him complain about it.
Yes, but eBay is your friend. So, trawl eBay. Go into the secondhand bookshops when you go past them. You can find real treasures in there. And that's a good way to start your book collection.
The other option is if you're a digital native, if you're not as senior as Jean and I, you might prefer to have all your books, ebooks, online books in your computer. Now, yes, they don't smell the same as a good old hard copy book made of paper, but if you're a digital native, you could have your whole library in your computer. It's highly portable. You can take it on holiday if you do house calls or whatever. You've got every resource in your computer. There are lots of books and software packages with enormous libraries that will all fit on your computer, and you don't have to worry about shelf space or cutting down trees.
Mm-hmm. So are there certain textbooks or software required? Now, for the 2-year course, you are going to need a repertory and a materia medica. Now, doing the online version really probably is, you get access to so many more texts in doing that. And also repertorization is easier. However, we also really like having a book, because reading through a repertory, you do see so many of the different things listed there, but you can absolutely choose. When you look at homeopathic textbooks, some of them can cost, up to maybe, $200, $300 sometimes, depending on, you want to scope around, try and find them. But when you buy the software, we have a package that students can buy, and I believe it was $500. And that gave them access to about, 40, 50 different texts that they can use online. And then they can use that repertorizing program, for their cases that they're going to submit throughout Academy. So we highly recommend the digital software, unless someone really just wants to do it the way with books, which they absolutely can. So that's the options there. Yes, we will put you in contact with the Radar Opus suppliers when the time comes. How much should we allow to start our own dispensary and purchase remedy supplies? Now, this is very individual per person. For me, when I first started, I didn't have, a lot of cash lying around to go and invest in all the remedies and all of the potencies that I would like. And so I started just with one potency, and I just got the, maybe 40, would it have been, Peter? I would go to Peter's office and I said, all right, tell me, what are the most critical ones that I should buy for my dispensary? And we just narrowed it down, to a list of maybe 40. And that's what I started with. And that's all that I used for that time. Until then, you grow it, you naturally grow it. And now it's out of control. And I've got a real remedy buying problem from all countries and all different potencies and all the things. But in terms of how much money to put aside to start, I spent probably about, but to be honest, throughout your 2 years of study, you do not need to buy any. You can absolutely just use the pharmacies to dispense to your patients, and you don't even have to purchase any. You don't have to dispense any. But, you could start with buying just 10, polycrests, and that might cost you $200. I did spend about $800 when I was getting my 40. It's really up to you guys. When the time comes, you're going to be able to pay for the remedies, with doing your consults probably before too long. So the good thing about homeopathic medicines as well is that they go so far. I've still got the medicines, those original ones that I bought nearly 10 years ago. So they do not expire. really. They, homeopaths will be using the same dispensary for many, many, many years, and it goes so far with all of your patients. So the good thing is that even though it's an investment, it's going to last you probably a lifetime of practice. Are there prerequisites? There are not prerequisites for this course. However, we do an anatomy and physiology component. Anyone who is looking to enroll in the next cohort, we've asked just to sit on it for the moment in regards to the anatomy and physiology, because we've been approached by a brilliant woman. She used to lecture with Peter. She's a senior lecturer, and she also did anatomy and physiology. And she's doing this course. It's around 50 hours of content, but all from the perspective, not that sort of boring old mechanistic way that AMP might be rolled out, but really the essence and truth of it, of like creation and the body and how it functions. So she will be brilliant. We will let you guys know if that is official and approved, but if not, then people do at some point throughout this 2 years, they get ticked off. They need to do some sort of certification for anatomy and physiology. So before we give you, a list of providers for that, let's see, because we would really love to work it into our curriculum the way that we have in mind, because it's, she's next level. Do you have to have any medical training? No, you do not. No, we've got tradesmen, we've got builders, we've got people who have never studied. We've got women in their 60s. We've got people who said, I was never able to study at school and I was really nervous about signing up to study something formally. But they said, I just couldn't resist the call because I'm so obsessed with homeopathy. So I signed up anyway, even though I was absolutely petrified that I wouldn't be able to keep up. Everybody learns differently. But what I will say is, in the 570 students that we currently have, I have not had one person say, this is difficult for me to understand and I'm not comprehending. I get so much feedback around, this is so easy to understand. Somehow the way that it is released, I really get it. I'm really engaged. And that, so far, I really can't think of one person who has struggled with that, which is so important to us because that's what we care about. Everyone learns differently. We do not want to put people in a box and, do it that way where they need to regurgitate or they fail. No, it's really, truly brilliant. And the anatomy and physiology to be advised. Is there a cap on enrolments for the next intake? At this point, no. If we did decide to cap it, we would give everybody who has already registered their interest a lot of notice before any plans to cap it. We would let people know so that they could decide if they were in or out. But at this point, no, because everything is uploaded for everybody to be released. And then we just have still all of our live touch points. So even though there's 570 students, they still get so much live time with us, more than a lot of other courses that some online courses with distant learning, it really is sort of just like teaching yourself, right? Like reading all your course materials and just sort of like, okay, go for it, teach yourself. That's really not what ours is like. So in the tutorials, we have 18 different groups of tutorials currently, and we have 6 different tutors who are always looking after all of them, phenomenal homeopaths who you guys will probably meet in due time. The enrollment deadline is July 2026. Today we're in 2025. July next year is when that will be cut off. Okay, if you can't wait to get started, we do have an option. And that is a course called Welcome to the Revolution, Ignite the Change, that we were all a part of. And so too, you will meet our other lecturers in there, our other tutors, Jan Blair, Kim Parry, Janie Lavelle's not in that one, but she's another tutor. Now, this is where, with the introduction to homeopathy, with the Welcome to the Revolution, if you jump into that course, you will get familiar with what it is like to study with Remedy. The conversations, the presentations, what it looks like in the portal, how to log in and access your course content. Now, if you guys did want to try that and just see how it goes, You can sign up for the Welcome to the Revolution. I think it's about 400 Australian dollars, which is about 250 American dollars. And it's a 6-module short course where you're going to learn a whole bunch of things about generational inherited issues in homeopathy. You're going to learn first aid. You're going to learn children's remedies, women's remedies, men's remedies, complex children with Sarah Valentini. Sarah Valentini specialized with more of our autism, pandas, ADHD, more complex children's cases. And Sarah teaches in our course. She's one of the biggest components with the guest lecturers. So we have gorgeous guest lecturers. Hilary Dorian, one of our absolute favorites. She teaches a lot. She teaches the matrodonals, the bowel nosodes, the endocrine sarcodes, but if you guys do sign up to study this one and then you decide, right, that's it, I'm hooked, then that price actually gets taken off your enrollment next year. So the $400 or the $250 US that you spend, that just gets taken off your course fees. Okay, more information on mentor costs. I did cover that, but some are around the 500, some will go up, 1,500. It's really going to depend on who you choose, but you can just talk to them and just negotiate and find out. Now, what does that look like? What that looks like is you take a case, you find somebody in your community who maybe has eczema, and you take the case for 90 minutes, you get all of the information that you can, and you're going to know how to take that case because of the academy. So that part's going to be fine, but you take the case, then you book in with your mentor a spot. You might book in a session here and you say, okay, we're going to go through my first case. And you're going to say to them, this is all the information that I gathered. This is what I think the important symptoms are. And this is the remedy that I would like to give them. And that mentor is going to give you any guidance. They might ask you some questions. They might ask about the remedy. They might say, have you considered this other remedy? It's very similar to one that you've chosen, but just, have you thought about this one? And they'll just sharpen you and they'll help you. If you take that full case, you go, dear Lord, I truly do not have any idea really on remedies for this case. Nothing is turning up. Then they are there to support you. So that is how that whole process works. They tick that off, they sign it off. Ultimately, that gets submitted in your end of year portfolio at the end, and then you can graduate if you have 10 cases and 2 follow-ups per case. Will we need to travel to the RMDY Academy for in-person training at all? You definitely don't have to, though a lot of our students are trying to, yes. Will the business side be taught as well? Absolutely, yes. It's critical. What is the point of learning all of this incredible information and having all of the power to heal if you do not get out there and actually do it? You're not of service to anybody. Hey, absolutely, business side is taught. Okay, this one here, Jean. There are so many different styles of homeopathy. Which one will you teach?
I think the thing to say is both Mel, Peter and I all come from a classical tradition. What that means is that we were taught homeopathy based on Hahnemann, based on Kent, and based on the old masters. That's our starting point. And what that means is that we practice using what I would call the minimum remedy, or the one remedy that suits the whole of that person, so their totality. That's our aim, but we will also teach you how to do organopathy, how to do detoxing, how to do, vaccination detoxing. We will teach you how to use flower remedies, how to use, bowel nosodes. So we will add in a whole range of things. So, in your toolbox, you will always have the good classical base to work with, but you will also know all of these other tools that you can employ if you need to.
Brilliant. Peter, do you have anything else to add in around that?
Yes. One of the reasons for our success is the success of homeopathy as a modality. We homeopaths have a reputation of being able to help simple problems, most folk can, but particularly difficult, complex, chronic cases. That seems to be my experience for most of my prescribing career. That's mostly who I see. And most of them get better. So if we can do that successfully, and most of that comes from classical homeopathy, typically 1, maybe 2 remedies at a time. There are times, though, it doesn't seem to go as well as we hoped. And that's why we have all sorts of other options to use, as Jean was alluding to. So there's a time and a place for being classical, and there's a time and a place for being pragmatic. And you need to know when to do what, so that it's in your client's best interest that you do the very best for them at all occasions. And that way we get most people doing really well.
Thanks, guys. Yes, and we are really not dogmatic. We have a really open mind about different ways that people practice around the world, whether it is, you know, people who only ever use protocols, maybe things like the Banerjee protocols, or maybe they use the Narayani remedies, which are becoming extremely popular and they're brilliant. These other aspects, even fertility protocols that I practice with, these would be considered more therapeutic and probably more practical homeopathy or modern homeopathy. People call it different names. But we do, as an academy, we want to teach you how to do the classical homeopathy. Those foundations, if we build them in strong, it allows you to then, when you graduate, you can do whatever you want, but you at least know how to do the hardest thing, which is finding the simillimum. That is taking a whole case, looking at all of the symptoms and finding that energetic disturbance to find that one remedy that really matches that person. That is, in our opinion, that's the art of homeopathy. That's where you're really working as a practitioner. However, there are extremely helpful therapeutics and layered approaches that are extremely successful, and they can be taught, they can be implemented, but as you guys can probably understand, using protocols is much easier because it doesn't take that skill level, that knowledge, because a protocol is a protocol. But sometimes the results of protocols are limited because they're not individualized, and really the essence of homeopathy is usually individualized medicine. So it's a bit of a nuance there. I hope you guys understand the nature of that. We want to teach you all of the important foundations, all of those classical underpinnings, so that you are equipped to do all manner of homeopathic practice. Are there payment plans for the course? Yes, there are. I'm not going to read through those, but they are on our website, www.remdyacademy.org. There are some where people can start paying. It's a 3-year extended plan where they can pay over 3 years starting sooner, which, you know, is sort of, for some people, a lot easier these days. Homeopathy used to be on the HEX in Australia. So when I studied, you know, you could whack it all and, you know, the government would sort of cover it and you would pay it back later. They purposely took homeopathy out of all of these institutions where that was offered, because when you limit the access of people studying it, well, then it is no longer a threat. And so our role with Remedy Academy and keeping it, you know, within reach of people, with being sort of, you know, a really cost-effective option really for a 2-year course, it's our best attempt to help people get in there, because we know a lot, we're not working, the people who are signing up to our course are often not 18-year-olds who are living at home, you know, who can sort of do that and get that help. They're living amongst in this very real world. So, but you can find them on the website. The course calendar, we have 6 trimesters. There are 14 weeks per trimester, 42 weeks per year. That is the calendar. Okay, that is the end of our presentation, guys. Let me have a quick check in the chat. It is 9:30. I didn't want to go much longer and keep you guys much longer. Okay, let me just see if there's anything critical there. Some students charge small fees for that concept to help cover their costs. Yep, they do. Yes, so when you are taking your 10 cases for your portfolios, you absolutely can charge for those, especially because you're getting expert guidance from mentors to then give a remedy. So that's what I used to do. When I graduated, I started working with Peter, and I used to pay Peter $50 an hour to look over cases with me. So I might charge, $150 to my patient to take their case for 90 minutes. Then I would go to Peter, I would work on it, I would learn immensely with him. And then I would, send off the remedies. So that's absolutely a way to get your practice going, be getting success and exposure, and also continuing, your education in that way. Okay. All right. How do we sign up for the introduction course? That is on the Remedy Collective website. That is in our online shop. Welcome to the revolution. All right, guys. Okay, there's so many questions. I'm going to leave it there, guys. Hopefully you have learned a lot. We will run another Q&A in coming months. Absolutely. So yeah, you can just keep your finger on the pulse. But in regards to, for the people deciding to study homeopathy, it is something that you don't have to worry about it. If it is for you, you will nonstop be thinking about it. You will not be able to resist. We had, the most hilarious situations with people signing up for this course. Put it out there. If it's something that you want and you're not sure how you're going to make it work, put it out there to the world. If you've got good intentions for what you want to create with your homeopathic qualification, and you're dreaming of, some sort of clinic, and you have people coming in and you're really helping people, because the truth is, we look around this world and it is currently, we are really struggling. We really are, as a world population. We need to turn things around for our future and for our children's future. And so the ways, the means, it's all going to come to us. You don't have to work it out. You don't have to muscle your way through it. It will work out for you. So all the best for all of you guys. Have an amazing weekend. Thank you, Jean and Peter, for joining us. Sorry for my coughing, guys. I have definitely got a little cold at the moment. But yes, take care, everybody. And any extra questions, you can just wait for our next Q&A, or you can email Ash at the Academy. All right, Peter and Jean, have an amazing weekend.
Thanks all.
See you soon. Bye, guys.
Bye.